Here's a sort of a scary story, but it's very instructive. In the time of the Arizal, this is about 400 years ago, 450 years ago. The Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. Rabbi Yitzchak Luria is like we can call it the father of modern Kabbalah. He wrote, his pupil wrote, his pupil, Rabbi Chaim Vital, he wrote the book, the teachings of the Arizal, Eitz Chaim and pre-Eitz Chaim and yeah, it's Chaim pre and what's called the 8 gates, Shmona Sha'arim, right? The gate of repentance and the gate of incarnations, reincarnations, the whole secret of reincarnation. Anyway, he was a tremendous genius. In his time, the Arizal, he lived in Tzfat, in Israel. Tzfat is up in the, and he's buried there also in Israel. So there was a simple Jew. I don't remember if it says his name. And he went to a lecture of the rabbi, and the rabbi said that in the Holy Temple there used to be 12 loaves of bread, and the Kohanim would eat these 12 loaves of bread. They would eat them on Shabbat. They would change them, the loaves of bread, and they would remain fresh. And this gave tremendous pleasure to God. The loaves of bread. But nowadays we don't have any holy temple, and so God doesn't get the pleasure from the loaves of bread, but he gets pleasure from our learning Torah and learning about the loaves of bread, etc. Anyway, so this fellow goes home and he tells his wife, let's try something. You bake 12 loaves of bread, and I'll go back to the synagogue and I'll put them in the ark. I'll sneak them in the ark, put them where the Torah is, and we'll see if God accepts our donation to him. So his wife, who was also very simple and very wholesome, like we said, Tamim Tiem Hashem Elokechem, be simple with God. So she did it. She booked 12 loaves of bread. And this man, early in the morning, Erev Shabbat, maybe even before the sun rose, he went to the synagogue. In those days, the synagogues didn't have locks on the doors. Anyone who wanted to could come in. That was the way it was in Israel. The synagogues didn't have locks. So he went into the synagogue and he put the 12 loaves of bread into the ark, into the Aron HaKodesh, where the Sefer Torah was, and he left. That Friday, a little bit later in the day, before the prayers began, the morning prayers, as the caretaker, the shamash, the sextant, whatever they call it, he came in and to clean up the place and just make the place, prepared for the morning prayers. Everybody comes in and they pray the morning prayer, and then to fix it up for Shabbat. So he comes in and he smells this good smell, this aroma of like freshly baked bread. So he follows his nose, and it's in he opens it up. There's 12 loaves of bread. 12 loaves of bread. Who would put 12 loaves of bread into the ark? It's not a good idea. It'll maybe draw rodents will come to eat it or something like that. But just the whole idea. I mean, so obviously nobody put them there to store them. He was going to come back for if he would leave the 12 loaves of bread, out, nobody would steal. In those days, people didn't steal. There was no such thing as, there were thieves, but it was just, in Tzfat, especially holy city, and who would steal bread in any case? So 12 loaves of bread. So he took him home, went back to his house and said to his wife, you don't have to bake bread today. You don't have to bake bread. I got 12 loaves of bread. We can invite guests. So that's what he did. Meanwhile, our hero that put the 12 loaves of bread there, he came to daven in the morning, and after everybody finished, so the sexton finished cleaning up the place, and he went over to the ark, and the Aron HaKodesh, and he opened it up, and there was no bread there. And he thought, God accepted my offering. God accepted my offering. You realize what this is? God is happy. God is happy like he was in the time of the temple. I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell my wife. He goes home and he tells his wife, and his wife is beaming with joy. And the next week, they also baked 12 loaves and he goes in early in the morning, he puts them there. And the same thing, the sexton comes preparing the prayers of morning prayers for Friday, Friday, and he comes in, he smells the smell, opens up, takes the. So it is several weeks in a row. And the sextant, before he ate these loaves, he went to the rabbi and he said, "Listen, I found these loaves, and this is it permissible for me to eat it?" And the rabbi said, "Yeah, who would leave loaves? It doesn't make any sense. Put loaves over there. You can't leave them there, for Shabbat. You so yeah, you can take them home. If somebody complains and says, 'Who took my loaves?' then tell them that the rabbi said that you can take them home." Anyway, this went on for a month or 2 months, whatever. It happened to be that one day the rabbi of the community, that he knew about this whole, right? And so, he once in a while he would ask the sextant, how is it going? He said, "Every week they're there. I can give you a couple loaves if you want." The rabbi said, "Okay, why not take a go?" It happened to be that one day the rabbi met the simple Jew who put the bread there. And he said, "How are you doing today?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Listen, Rabbi, I want to tell you something special. I heard the lecture you gave like 2 months ago about the bread in the bread in the holy temple. Yes, and how God gets pleasure from the bread." He says, "Well, Rabbi, listen, I want you to know that I fixed it up. I fixed it up. God gets pleasure. He gets pleasure again." So what are you talking about? He says, what did you fix up? He said, "God gets pleasure from the 12 loaves. You said he get pleasure from, yeah, when there was a temple, God got pleasure from. Well, he gets the same pleasure now. Every Friday, don't tell anyone. Every Thursday night, my wife bakes 12 loaves. I go to the synagogue before sunrises. I put them there on Friday, and God accepts them. He takes them right after the prayer. I see they're not there." And the rabbi said, "Wow, wow, wow, wow. Are you a fool? You really believe that God eats your 12 loaves? Even the temple, God didn't eat the 12 loaves. The sexton takes the 12 loaves. He comes there and he sees that you put bread you can't put bread in the ark. What are you putting bread in the ark for? Where they could come mice and eat the bread. They could eat the bread. The sexton takes the bread and he takes it home and he eats it. He gives it to me." The man said, "Oh, really? You mean that God doesn't get pleasure from my lips?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything wrong with it. I just really said, oh, go home. Don't bake any more bread. We'll buy bread from the bread store." Right? He goes home and he tells his wife, and his wife is heartbroken. "Oh, I really thought." That day, and the Arizal came to the rabbi and said, "Prepare your will. Tomorrow you're going to die." He said, "What?" He said, "Prepare funeral shrouds, what's called tachrichim, and put your will in order and everything. Tomorrow you." So that Jew, his simple Jew, you have no idea how much pleasure he gave God. It was just like the pleasure that God gave from the 12 loaves. You have no idea. And you made fun of him. You made him feel bad. You told him to stop in such a way that it shamed him. It made him feel bad. You broke his heart. Said, "You should know that in heaven, you finished your job in the world. We'll find somebody else to take you." And that's what it was. That the rabbi passed away the next day. Okay, the end is a very, very scary ending. And in fact, nowadays, God is very, very lenient with everyone. If that rabbi would have shamed this person, then he probably could have lived a long life. But in those days, even the days of the Arizal, as was only 450 years old, but nevertheless, God was much more revealed, connected to what we did. Anyway, we can explain it however you want to next week, but let's concentrate on the good part. The simplicity of this Jew gave God tremendous pleasure. And that's a thing which we cannot underestimate. how much pleasure God gives from our simple desire, our simple prayers. A person puts on tefillin one time in his life. We can no way underestimate that. And like we were talking about before, so one good thought, one good word, God really respects this and values it. Like I just gave you the story about the rabbi said that if a person doesn't keep Yom Kippur, nothing whatsoever eats, but a half an hour he goes to the synagogue and he prays from the machzor, he looks in the machzor, you have no idea how much pleasure God gets from that half of an hour. So be sincere with God, and maybe that's what's missing to bring the Mashiach now. Have a good day. God bless you all. See you all tomorrow.